Hi there, my name is Vince from Mr. Telephone, and today I'm going to talk about how to run a wired network. So let's say if you're using Wi-Fi at the moment and you're sick off your PlayStation, your Xbox, your laptop, your PC, whatever you've got, your smart TV dropping out, then you can run a wired connection. Now, by running a cable, it's always going to be the best possible connection. So yes, Wi-Fi works, but as you all know, it can drop out. The further away from the router you are, the speeds get slower, you get intermittence on and off, and you're never sure, is it the website, is it the Wi-Fi? Even the adapters that you plug into the mains, the power line adapters, they're really good, but they're still not as good as a cable. Cable's really straightforward. A lot of people are worried about how to do the connection up. The hardest bit is running the cables, so find the neat way to get the cables from A to B. But as long as you don't run it near a power cable, then you're going to be absolutely fine, and connecting up either end is actually pretty simple. I'm going to show you how to do it now. I've already done a video on this using CAT5 cable. This is going to be showing you how to use it using CAT6 cable. It's very similar. The only difference is CAT6 cable has like a plastic cross member running right the way through the cable, which separates each pair of wires. But as far as the color codes and everything, it's all the same. So if you've already watched my CAT5 video, this is going to be repeating a lot of it, but this is more for the customers that buy my CAT6 kits. So I sell kits on eBay that consist of the cable clips to fit the wires, because a lot of the cables are different sizes and you're not sure what cable clips to buy. So I do a complete kit that has the cable clips, the socket, the back boxes, the little patch leads that go from the sockets to your equipment. So I do complete kits. I've been selling them for years. People tend to like them because you can just get everything in one kit and it's job done. So this video is just to help those people and anybody else out there wanting to do a wired connection. Now, two ways of doing it. You can get yourself a cable and you can crimp plugs onto the end of it. That's an Ethernet cable, and then you can run that throughout your house and that's fine. A better way to do it is to terminate them onto wall sockets. Okay, so these are little RJ45 Ethernet sockets. This particular one is a CAT6 one. And what you need to do is you need to wire the cables to the back of this side, and then on the other side again you can have another CAT6 socket. So you've got two sockets, and then from the sockets you have little patch leads that go from here into your router. So you can have your router plugged in this side, the right way up, and then your other side can have another socket on it, and then you can have your PlayStation plugged in this side, or your laptop or your computer, whatever you want to network, your smart TV. Or the other way a lot of people like to do it is they would have an RJ45 plug crimped onto one end. This would normally go into your router, and then the other end they would put a wall socket on, and then from the wall socket a short patch lead that then goes into their equipment. So the kits I sell are a socket on both ends, because that's the best, most permanent solution, because then the only thing that's really going to go faulty is the patch leads, because they're the bits that move around the place. And the patch leads you can buy. You know, I supply them with 1 metre, but you get 2 metres, 10 metres, 50 centimetres, whatever you want. So I think the best way of doing it is to have a wall socket and another wall socket and then short patch leads. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to connect up one end as a wall socket and the other end as an RJ45 plug. And then you've got the best of both worlds, because you can either do RJ45 plug on both ends, wall socket on both ends, or you can do like I'm doing, which is a wall socket and an RJ45 plug. So that's what I'm going to do on this particular video. But personally, I think the better option is to have the wall socket on both ends. If you were wanting to network more of your house, so let's say if you wanted to do, 4 points in your house, then what you could do is you could have a quad faceplate with 4 sockets on it near your router. And then you'd have a cable going from each of those sockets to different parts, one to the bedroom, one to the living room for the smart TV, one to your office. And then that's quite nice, because you've got a little quad plate by the router, because you're not going to need a big patch panel unless you're doing a whole load of sockets around the place. Obviously, if you were in an office, that's what you would have. You would have your patch panel by your router, and then you would have numerous wall sockets around the place. But in your house, it's up to you. I mean, often 4 might well be enough, or you could have 8, you could have 2 quad plates next to each other. Don't take up much room, because the quad plates that I have are 1 gang. This is a 1 gang size. You can also get 2 gang quad plates. So what I'll do is, on another video, I will show you how to do a home network where you will wire up a quad plate and then you can have 4 sockets around. But this particular video, I'm only going to wire up the one connection, okay? So, what we need to do is, you've got your back box here. If you were drilling it through the wall, because I also sell these in external kits as well. This is white internal cable, but I do black external. So pretend now if it was black external, chances are you're going to be drilling a hole through the wall and you will be placing this on the wall just above the skirting board. So then you would knock out this knockout here and you would pass the cable through the wall into the back box. If you were using internal cable, odds are you're going to be coming up from under the floorboards, or you might have even cable clipped it to the skirting boards, in which case then you can use one of these knockouts here or the knockout underneath. So on this one here, I'm just going to use the knockout underneath. Now to strip back the CAT6 cable, if you have a stripper like this is great because you can just work your way around the cable and it cuts it nice and clean. Again, it doesn't have to be really neat, you can just use cutters. As long as you don't damage the wires on the inside, then you're going to be just fine. Some cables have a drawstring that you can pull the drawstring along. This particular cable doesn't, but you can, you can just cut it neatly like so, working your way along, okay? Or these kind of crimpers, you can score it like this and then snap it off. Or if you have a wire stripper like this, nice and simple, you just work it around like that. And then you can just snap the sheath off. And I know I haven't damaged any of the wires because it had a nice click there as I snapped the sheath, so I didn't go all the way through. If you were to put the blade too long, you're going to score the wires on the inside, and they might not break straight away. They could break in a week's time, or when you start to terminate it, a little bit of movement and it snaps. So the main thing is, do not score those wires on the inside. You only want to cut the sheath and not the wires. So because this is a CAT6 Ethernet, we're going to be using all 4 pairs. If it was CAT5E or fast Ethernet, it would only be using the oranges and the greens. But because this is going to be for gigabit Ethernet, we're going to be using all four pairs. So get rid of the plastic cross member. What I like to do is, because it really does get in the way, I like to cut down at an angle without cutting the actual wires. Work your way round and cut the cross, cut the plastic cross away, give it a little turn and it will just snap off like that. You can see that I've cut down at an angle on them, and it frees up a bit of room then, because if you have the plastic cross member sticking out, it can get in the way, because basically you don't want to untwist these wires too much. You are going to have to untwist them a bit to get them into the terminations, but you don't want to do it too much. And you don't want to strip the cable all the way back here and have all these wires just dangling around. You want as little as possible. So I've left them quite long at the moment, but when I punch them into here, it will get shorter and shorter. The idea is that you want your sheath to be roughly level with the end of the cable tie bit here, the beginning of the socket. If you were to have your sheath there, you're going to struggle to get the wires in everywhere. But if you put them there, then the longest bit of wire is going to be, forget, these colour codes are not correct at the moment, I'm just showing you. The longest bit of wire is going to be that bit there. So that's not too, that'd be absolutely fine. So keep them as short as possible. Okay, so we're going to have to come down to the table for this bit now. So I have that there. Now, if you can see here very closely, let me hold it down here, hopefully you will see a B and an A at the top of the socket here. You can see a B and an A. We're going to be following the B colour code because most patch leads and stuff that you buy now are B. It doesn't matter what colour code you use as long as you use the same on both sockets. So if you were to use A on this socket, you would have to use A on the other socket as well, or you would have to wire up this with the greens first if you were using A. But use B, everybody tends to use B nowadays, so just go with the B. All the colour codes are B. All the new patch cables are wired up as B, and then when you wire up, if you're going to wire up your plug on the other side, you can start with the oranges, because just you can copy standard patch leads that you buy. So basically we're going to be copying the B colour code on both sides. The only difference is that the oranges and the greens are crossed. The browns and the blues are the same whether you use the A or the B configuration, but the oranges and the greens are crossed. So follow the B, and on this particular socket, sockets will vary. So just because mine is white orange here, it doesn't mean that the other socket, if you buy one from Applins or wherever from, it doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily be white orange there. Always follow the colour code on the socket because it depends how the manufacturer's wired it up. As long as you follow the B colour code, then you're going to be absolutely fine no matter what socket you use. This is a CAT6 kit, so I'm using CAT6 sockets. You might not be able to see that in this light, but on the socket somewhere it should say CAT6. Yeah, so this is a CAT6 socket. Now, so what you need to do is, when you're punching the wires in, you have to punch the wires in so that they go right to the bottom of the termination. Now, if you look at these plastic cheapy tools, I know I do supply this particular tool in the kit, you see this bit here is where your wire goes through. So on this socket here, don't push it in that way, that will be the wrong way. The wires go in the middle of the socket, okay? So the wires are going to come down in the middle of the socket and then spread out either side. So basically the wires this side will go like that and the wires this side will go like that. And this socket here needs to go in like so. And you will see it will push right the way down. Sometimes when you try to force it in the wrong way, it doesn't want to go in. So right now that's not going in. Yeah, of course you can force it down, but you're pushing it in the wrong way. So it wants to go like that. Now when you use these plastic tools, you are going to have to cut off the excess wires. I'll show you, I'm going to show you both tools in a minute, but when you use a cheap plastic tools, you are going to have to cut off the excess wires on the bit that's not connected. But when you use a professional tool, like this one, it has a little cutter built in. So when you push it down, that little V there cuts. So basically, when you push the wire in, you have the cutter on the outside. So when you're doing this side, it will be like so. And when you come to terminate this side, it will be that way round, and it will cut the excess wires. Again, if you try to force it in the wrong way, can you see, it doesn't want to go in. But when you push it in the correct way, it will drop right to the bottom. Yeah, it goes right, it goes, hold on. There, it goes right the way into the bottom. But when it's the wrong way, it doesn't drop in. So I'm going to wire this up now using the B colour code. So we're going to start at the top, unravelling the bare minimum. I'm going to use a mixture of the professional tool and the cheap tool. Now, when you're using the tool, always go down nice and straight. Don't go at an angle. If you go at an angle, you're just going to widen that metal V up and the wire's not going to grip. So always go down nice and straight, go down firmly, and go right to the very bottom of the terminal. So if you can see now, I've got my white orange and my orange wire connected. They're pushed to the very bottom because you can see that they've gone to the bottom, and my tools actually cut them for me. Now I'm going to show you connecting up the greens using the cheap tool. This is the tool that I sell in my kits. Okay, obviously I sell the good tools as well. They're more expensive. So again, on this particular socket, the next one is the white green, and I'm going to push it in using the tool. And then the next one is the green. Again, push it in using the, remember to keep it as short as possible. Nice and straight, straight down. Now, it does exactly the same job. The only difference is, can you see, it doesn't cut the end because this does not have a cutter on it. It only pushes the wires in. So what you have to do is you have to then snip the wires. Yeah. Now, that is just as neat as the ones above, now that you've snipped it. So the cheap tools do work just as well as the more expensive ones, but if you're going to be doing a lot of these sockets, get yourself a proper tool, because it will drive you mad having to do two operations when one operation will do the same job. Punch it down, it cuts in one movement. Okay, so that's that side connected, following the B colour code. Now I'm going to do the other side here. So the top one here is white brown and then brown. Okay. And now we've got the white blue and then the blue. Again, keeping the twist to a minimum. So if you have a look at the blue one there, can you see how the twists are twisted right the way down to the termination? So keep it twisted as much as you can. It's not always easy, and you are going to have to untwist some of it. So again, using the cheaper tool, punch in, right the way to the bottom. Yeah, you can always do it twice to make sure, and then snip the ends. There we go. Now, always double check you've got the correct colours, because in one of my other videos I made a mistake, and it wasn't until I tested at the end that I realised I'd got it wrong. So always double check. So we got white orange orange, white green green, that's white brown brown, and white blue blue. So that looks correct to me. Now to finish off, we get a cable tie. Cable tie it on. And now that socket's done. And if you have a look nice and closely, you'll see it's nice and neat. And all the wires are in the correct place. Got that? Yeah? Okay, so we're going to terminate up this socket now. It's on its back box. Put some screws in it. Now if you were putting a socket on the other end of this cable, you would do exactly the same as what you've just done now using the B configuration. Just copy it again, do exactly the same, and then you would plug your patch leads in from here to your router, and from the other end to your PlayStation, your PC, whatever, okay? But for this video, we're going to be just now, this side, we're just going to be putting on an RJ45 plug. So we're going to be using a strain relief boot, like that. Now just very quickly, I've already done a video on this, so I'm not going to waffle on too long about it. Two types of plugs. You have to use a CAT6 plug. These look the same, but they're not. If you look very closely, this one here, all the holes are in a straight line. So when you push the wires in, they're going to be in a straight line. This is a CAT5E plug. So we don't want to use that on CAT6 cable. The CAT6 cable plug has high, low, high, low, high, low, high, low. They're staggered, so the holes are staggered. So when you push the cables in, they're not like that, they're like that. They're staggered, so it gives you a bit more distance between them. So get yourself some proper CAT6 plugs if you're going to be terminating, terminating one of the ends in RJ45s. So this is the CAT6 one here. That's just called a strain relief boot. Now what we have to do is just strip this back. Again, I've already done this on other videos, so if you want more detail you can watch the other videos, but again it's exactly the same as the video on the CAT5E, but we have to get rid of this plastic cross member again. So again, cut down at an angle. Again, when you strip back the cable, make sure that you don't damage any of the inside wires. And the other important thing on this one is make sure that the sheath is nice and straight. So if you're cutting it back, obviously it's much easier if you have got the proper tools or one of these to go round. But if you are just using cutters, try to get this edge as straight as possible, because you are getting it into the plug. And if it's not cut straight, when you push it into the plug, it's going to be crooked. And there's more chance of the cable sheath pulling out from the plug if it's not cut straight. So we're going to have to get it in order now. Now remember, we used the B configuration on the other side, so I know now that this side's going to start with the oranges. If you were to use the A, you're going to have to start this side on the greens, the green pair. But as I said, use the B configuration, because if you look at most patch leads, and if you look at that patch lead there, if you look at this side, it starts with the oranges. Yeah. So that's a B, and you'll find pretty much all patch leads now are wired up with the oranges first, so go with the B configuration. So we got, I'll show you the colour code in a minute, we've got white orange, orange, white green, blue, white blue, straighten them up as you go along, green, white brown, and brown. So I'll show you that now in a second. As you go along, work it flat, because remember they're going to have to go into the plug. It can be a bit of a pain trying to get them into the CAT6 plug because it's staggered, but you will get it with a bit of practice. But allow yourself, have like 2 or 3 plugs spare, allow yourself some extra length, because you'll be lucky to get it on the first attempt. As you get used to it, you will be able to do it. Hopefully I'll be able to do this now perfectly, but you know, allow yourself, don't just get yourself 1 plug, because the chances are you might well get it wrong. So now, flatten them down nicely, and we will check just before it goes into the plug, but if you have a look, we've got white orange, orange, white green, blue, white blue, green, white brown, brown. This will be pin 1, and this will be pin 8. So the white orange is pin 1, and the brown is pin 8. Pin 1 is always, as you look at them, pin 1 is always on the left hand side. So as you look at the pins, this will be pin 1 here, so you will have the orange white here, and then you'll end up with the brown here. Exactly the same as your patch leads. Orange here, white orange here, sorry, and brown at the ends here. So I'm going to push them in. First of all, what I have to do is I have to cut them. So I've got them in order now. I've got them nice and flat, and I'm going to have to cut them. Now when you're cutting them, there's no harm to leave them a little bit longer, and then when you push them in, if the sheath doesn't go in the right amount, you can always pull it out and cut another millimetre off. And if it's still too long, cut another millimetre off. If you cut it too short, there's nothing you can do. You're going to have to start again. So always leave them a little bit longer. I make up quite a few of these, so roughly I know that that's going to be the right length, because I want the wires to go to the very end of the plug, and I want the sheath to go to fill up the whole of the entry to the RJ45 plug. So basically the sheath can't really go past where my finger is now, and I want the wires to go to the very top there. So I think that's probably going to be right, but if it's not, I'll pull it out and I'll just cut another millimetre off. Now when they go in, as you can see, I think I'm going to be lucky here. When you push it in, it's sometimes it goes in easy, other times you can get one that buckles up and starts to go the wrong way. It doesn't necessarily mean you're doing anything wrong, just take them out, flatten them out again and do it again. If one starts to buckle, or if the end's not perfectly straight, or if there's a bit of a kink on it, so when you're cutting it, just cut it nice and straight. If there's a bit of a kink on it, as it goes into the hole, it's just going to buckle, and it's just going to start, the more you push, the more it's going to bend over, and it's not going to go through. But as you can see, this one here looks like it's going in nice. Yeah, so that looks like it's gone in pretty much perfect, but what I always do is, I always give it a wiggle to make sure all the wires go to the very end before I crimp down. Now, that sheath is not going to go any more into there. It's as far as it will go, and the wires are at the very end of the plug. So if I hold it nice and steady, hopefully you will see some copper at the very end of the plug there. So I know the wires have gone fully to the very end, and the sheath's gone to the very end. So that's ready to be crimped now. But before you crimp, just double check the colour code again. White orange, orange, white green, blue, green, white brown, brown. So I know the colour code's right, because there's nothing more annoying than when you crimp down and you realise as you pushed it in, one of the wires got crossed. Yeah? So, crimp down. That's now on, nice and tight. The cable's gripped by the clamp there off the plug. Get your strain relief boot and slide it up. And there you go, that's the end done. Copper has gone right to the very end, and it's been crimped in. Sheath's right the way in, so it's nice and strong. So the last thing now to do is just to test it. So you can pick these up from eBay for about 3 or 4 quid. They're just very basic testers, just continuity testers. You can test RJ45s, and you can test RJ11 and RJ12 cables. So we're going to put it in the RJ45 one here, using the patch lead. We plug it into here, and all this is doing, this is the sender. It sends signals down pins 1 to 8, and then hopefully, if it's wired correctly, this should light up 1 to 8 here. So I'm just going to turn it on and put it on slow. And what it should be is, if you look down, it's scrolling through. So go to number 1. So it's pin 1, pin 2, pin 3, pin 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I know that all 8 wires are connected. This is UTP cable, that's unshielded cable. So it hasn't got any foil wrapped around it. If it did have foil wrapped around it, you would have to use the shielded plugs, and then you'd be looking out for that G for grounds. You'd be looking for that one as well. But this is just UTP. UTP is absolutely fine to use. If you're in a noisy factory, then go for shielded, but there's nothing wrong with UTP. So if you look down now, let's just speed that up a little bit. See that whiz through, pins 1 to 8. So I know there's full continuity now between all the pins, so this cable will work absolutely fine. You're not going to have any problems with anything because we've had the minimum amount of untwist of the wires. You can't untwist this plug any more than you could have done because the sheath's right the way to the very ends and the cables are right the way to the very ends. So yeah, that's how to wire up a CAT6 kit. Hope you enjoyed the video, hope you found it useful. If you've bought the kit from me already, you will find this useful. If you want to buy the kit from me, check out my eBay shop. That's www.mrtelephone.co.uk, and I will have all these items for sale in my eBay shop. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked the video, give a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more videos in the future. Thanks very much. Take care now.